Do you have any communication from any other board members?
No, Vice Chair Treese. I have not received anyone from any of the other board members.
Okay. I think I'm going to turn it over to Board Chair.
Yep.
Gary, let's get started.
Okay. Welcome to the second of two Budget Committee meetings for Clean Water Services. We met before on Friday, May 9th, and received an overview of the Clean Water Services budget. This meeting is a continuation of the first. We will hear the conclusion of functional area presentations, receive public comment, and hear updates to questions asked on May 9th. Stephanie, will you do a roll call, please?
Thank you, Chair Song. I'll go around the table, starting with Diane Taniguchi-Dennis, Elizabeth Edwards,
Here.
Kathy Leader, here, Terry Song,
Here.
Pam Treese,
Here.
Elaine Stewart, here, Jason Snyder,
Here.
Alan Jesse,
Here.
Jerry Willie,
Here.
and Catherine Harrington.
Here, last minute, but here.
I believe
Trustee
also we have Board Director Fide is walking in the room, but we do not have board member or Budget Committee member Ramesh Krishnamurthy.
Correct, thank you. And Budget Committee member Andy Haugen let us know that he would not be joining us today.
Thank you, Stephanie. Elizabeth, any updates or comments before we get started?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chair Song. And welcome again to all of our Budget Committee members to day 2. As you'll note from our agenda, we have a full afternoon ahead of us. And I also just want to take a moment to say thank you to our Budget Committee members. This, at least in recent memory, is the first time that we've had 2 Budget Committee meetings for CWS. So thank you for the additional commitment of your time and attention to these matters. A few housekeeping items before we get started. This meeting is being recorded, and we are streaming on CWS's YouTube channel. We also all have microphones in front of us, and I saw folks reaching for the button. So please remember to push the button when you speak to ensure that your comments are captured for the recording's purposes. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Our first agenda item is the Business Services Functional Area. Jack Lang, John Shaw, and Holly Dober presenting.
Hey, good afternoon, Chair Song and the members of the Budget Committee. My name is Jack Liang. I'm the Chief Business Operations Officer at Clean Water Services. I am responsible for the next 3 departments. The 3 departments, including Business Operations and Strategy Department, Digital Solutions, as well as Human Resources. I will be taking the lead for presenting the Business Operations and Strategy Department, and then followed by John Shaw will present the Digital Solutions, as well as Holly Dober will present Human Resources. So to start off with the structure of the Business Operations and Strategy Department, we have 6 programs within the department, including Administrative Services, Culture, Equity, and Learning, Facilities Management, Risk and Insurance Management, Safety Program, as well as Strategy Development and Enterprise Performance Program. The total full-time equivalent positions within this department is 44 FTEs. And you can find the budget for this department in the proposed budget from page 151 to page 175, and then in the roadmap book from page 11 to page 48. For the Business Operations and Strategy Department, our budget driver is primarily driven by 2 new programs that was added to this particular department. And those 2 new programs are facilities as well as a safety program. We did request 1 new FY26 FTE that's in the Building and Facilities Services program. It's a Building and Facilities Services supervisor position that will take on additional workload that's associated with the additional square footage that has been added to the program. And then the material and services also increased about $3.8 million as well as 67% compared to last year. The proposed travel and training budget in this department is 86,470, or 0.9% of the total M&S budget. The meal and refreshment budget within this department is 36,300, or about 1% of the M&S budget totally in this department. I would like to note that the majority of the meals and refreshment budget within this department includes budgets that's in culture, equity, and learning, as well as administrative services programs that are actually for functions and events for the whole district. That includes district-wide employee events, as well as the coffee services, as well as coffee services that are provided to district facilities where coffee services are not easily obtainable. And then as mentioned, there are two programs that were transferred from the previous East department into this particular department. That includes the facilities maintenance and also all occupied building operations costs, as well as the safety program that was moved into this department. Over the last years, this department has really focused on two things: enhancing the business operations service qualities throughout the district, as well as continued organizational integration and synergy that has been building. And in the new year, with our proposed budget as well as our proposed roadmap, we're planning on continuing those efforts within the district. This slide shows the numerical changes from last year's revised budget to this year's. As mentioned, our personnel services budget increased 21%, and our material and services budget increased 67%. And the entirety of these increases are related with the two new programs moving into this department. If we do an apple-to-apple comparison, looking only at the existing programs, we actually had a budget reduction within the other four programs that was within this department. So I'm going to dive into a little bit of programmatic details to share a little bit more about what each program does and what are the budget are actually supporting. Starting off with the two new programs, the facilities maintenance program is responsible for our buildings and facilities. As I mentioned, that we added a lot of building square footage to this program's portfolio. This program really operates similarly to our utility operations programs. Their work is not always in front of everybody's eyes, but they are always busy to stay on top of maintaining the buildings and maintaining the critical building structures that are well managed and maintained to support every aspect of our district operations. In the last year, we added the Clean Water Services Central property, which is more than 80,000 square foot additional square footage into this building. And this team has taken that on without any issues. Once the Ripple project is complete, the square footage will increase even more. In addition, we also have moved the landscaping program from the pump station programs to this facilities programs. And the goal for that is to align both the inside building maintenance as well as around the building maintenance into one program. All of this additional work are the reason why we're in need of another supervisor position in this program. And that position will be very critical in handling the new square footage, new projects that's added, as well as our aging building infrastructure that requires more and more caring. So that's the facilities maintenance program. The next program I want to introduce is safety program. And Casey Adair is the program manager for safety. Safety program is also a new program within the department, and the reason why we consolidated safety into the business operations is to bring it closer to the risk management program, as safety and risk management works very, very closely with one another, which I'll cover a little more in the risk management program. So within the safety program, in the last year, we have reviewed and revised multiple safety policies that are really overdue for revisions within the organization. And then we brought a number of these policies into the latest OSHA compliance requirement to ensure that we have the latest and the greatest policy and procedures to provide our employees the information that they need to stay safe. And also, we introduced a safety hard hat pilot project, which is a new best practice that's being introduced by OSHA, away from the traditional safety helmet program. The traditional safety helmet really kind of have a head protection without a lot of air, kind of side impact protection. The safety the safety helmet actually provides a lot more of the air impact, air protection, as well as some from protection as well. It's a great pilot project, and it has received very positive feedback from staff so far. Last thing I want to mention about the safety program is that we have renewed the local safety committee, which is an OSHA requirement for any employer. And then these committees have supported also some new safety policy review committees, so we can continue to review and revise safety policy, continue to support the organization from a safety perspective. And that's the safety program. Move on to the next slide. The Administrative Services Program is the program that's the backbone of the organization's office and operational functions. Our dedicated administrative associate staffs are staffing the front desk of every district location, and they're usually at the front line of any customer and visitors engagement. Our dedicated administrative assistants supports a variety of back office functions for all departments and programs across the district, from scheduling to event organization to purchasing card management, a variety of back office functions. So all of these teams working together to support all of our departments and programs within the district on their office functions. The most exciting development in this program was getting to a full team in the last year. At the height of our vacancy rate in this program, we were actually having 5 vacancies within a relatively small team. And that really impacted the workload as well as the employee morale in this program. Our program manager, Stephanie Morrison, who is also at the table today, has really focused on recruitment, retention, as well as team building in the last year, and really gotten the administrative services function to a full team, as well as a positive team morale to support the district. Next program I want to introduce is Culture, Equity, and Learning. This is the program that's responsible for our employee engagement efforts at Clean Water Services, our EDI initiatives, as well as our training and learning programs within Clean Water Services. The one thing I wanted to note is the tool that we're using is called a Gallup Q12 survey, and we have been doing that for 3 years now. The participation rate for the Gallup Q12 survey has stayed above 84% from 2022 to 2024. And when we started in the first year in 2022, our employee engagement score was 3.56. And to put things in perspective, that's about in the 16th percentile of all Gallup organizations that has taken the survey in that year. And then after 3 years, we had a consecutive increase in the Gallup score, and then we ended with a 2024 score at 3.95. In comparison, that is at 38th percentile of all of Gallup participants. So we increased in 3 years, we increased from 16th percentile to 38th percentile. And then on the learning front, this program has stood up multiple new learning initiatives within the organization, including a brand new leadership training program to support our new and aspiring leaders, a brand new onboarding program, which is cohort-based that lasts 6 months, and continue to supply our new employees with critical information to be a part of Clean Water Services, as well as supervisor trainings to provide essential tools for supervisors, effective meeting trainings, as well as project management trainings. And a lot of these training programs are conducted in partnership with other programs, including HR, our strategy programs, and all of this has yielded very positive results within our employee base. And last but not least, this program also collaborated with HR and procurement to continue to develop our equity metrics within the Clean Water Services, and they continue to measure our progress in each one of those areas. That's the Culture, Equity, and Learning program. Yes, Eileen.
Hey, Jack, where can I find those metrics in the project, progress toward them? Did I miss it in the roadmaps, or?
Oh, yeah, so those progress we have presented at 2 of the previous board learning sessions, and those are public documentations, and we have done annual reports on those. So we can definitely, it's not part of the roadmap document, but we can definitely provide that information to you.
All right. One thing that struck me as I was looking through the roadmap, is there an expectation within the organization that employees will pursue learning opportunities to build capability and literacy regarding culture and equity in the county, because this is thank you, I'm very sorry. My question for those who could not hear is, I'm curious that as I look in the roadmap, it seems very optional and perhaps not so much that there's an expectation of employees building their cultural competency and literacy around the diverse populations that we have here in Washington County. So I just wondered if you could respond to that. Thanks.
Well, thank you. That's an excellent question, and which is part of the reason why we prefer the culture and the direction of learning rather than training. As an organization, we have been thriving to be a learning organization, which would really promote the culture within our employee base to proactively seeking those growth opportunities in all aspects, rather than kind of in a mandatory training kind of situation where we have found that the result is not always great when folks are forced in a way to training opportunities rather than really wanting to kind of participate. That's kind of why we haven't built a lot of mandate into our training programs, but we try to design them to be attractive enough and interesting enough to really attract the employees to voluntarily participate.
Are you seeing increasing participation in the learning programs?
Absolutely. In all of these new programs that we have stood up, not only that we have seen interest in participations, as well we have conducted feedback surveys after each one of those programs, and the feedback are generally positive, with some really, really good constructive feedback that we can continue to build this program to be better. So yeah, they are working really well. Thank you, Eileen. Oh, sorry, one slide too quick. The next two programs I want to introduce is on this slide. The Strategy Development and Enterprise Performance Program is our strategy function. The short name, we call it the strategy team. This is a very project-based program, and we have a number of strategists and project managers within this program to support a number of high-level critical district-wide functions. And just to name a few examples, which I listed on the slide, those strategic projects include the climate action strategy, the long-term regulatory compliance strategy, performance excellence, business process improvement, as well as project management manual and training to support all of our project managers within the district, full-time or part-time, to have the right tools and training to conduct project management. This program has made tremendous progress in the last year. As you may recall, we completed the first draft of our climate action roadmap last year. And as our new chief of staff came on board, who took over the sponsorship of that particular project, our strategist, Jamie Walls, continued to support Elizabeth in that role to further develop and implement the strategy. On the long-term regulatory compliance roadmap, Laura Porter on the strategy team is supporting our CEO and our regulatory affairs department to continue to develop our strategy and regulatory compliance for the long time to come. The roadmap documents, which you see in front of you, is the product of the facilitation and organization of Ryan LeCicero, who is a strategist on the strategy team, to organize the organization and facilitate all the roadmap development efforts throughout the district. At the direction of the CEO, the district continued to seek ways to achieve more with existing resources, which is why we kind of renewed and stood up this business process improvement project. And we try to apply a Lean Six Sigma approach to our program operations and try to look for ways to streamline business processes and find more efficiencies within different programs.
Are we building a capacity to lead in that way within the organization, and how many green belts and black belts do we have?
That is an excellent question, and we currently have 2 black belts, one existing and one just recently got certified in the last year. I would like to give kudos to Stephanie Morrison, who also takes the self-initiative to pursue that path. I believe Stephanie is a yellow belt by now.
That's correct, Jack. I'm working on
Thank you,
my
Stephanie. And that's what we have so far within this program. And our intention is to continue to provide learning and training opportunities to get more and more of our folks familiar with the Lean Six Sigma approach.
You're going to love that program. About almost so many years ago, I'm a certified Lean Six Sigma black belt myself, and it was an investment the organization made in me to try to do process improvement. So you'll benefit, and I know Clean Water Services will benefit that investment.
Thank you. And the last thing I want to mention about this program is project management. One of the things that we continue to notice is that within the organization, our project management approach is a little bit inconsistent. There are certain programs that does a really, really good job at that, and other programs not so much. So our effort within this particular program is to provide a good baseline layer of project management fundamentals. So all of our full-time project managers and part-time project managers can actually have a similar tools and consistent approach to that. We are, in the new year, we're actually launching a new training series that's focused on project management. And that training is going to qualify folks to sit for the PMP, the Project Management Professional examination, and possibly be certified as PMPs. So that's a new initiative this program is pushing.
Yes, Ramesh.
I think I've asked this, sorry, apologies for being a little late. I took the wrong turn coming into Hillsborough downtown and had to make a loop, sorry. I think I've asked this question before, and probably this may be a repeat, but help me understand that. All the trainings that you're going through here, and anything that's in your plan, formal or informal, how is that preparing a bench so that the succession and the training from inside the organization is what grows with the organization? Are there some examples? Are there any new programs coming up?
Yeah, well, thank you. I will take us like one slide back to the culture and equity learning. As I mentioned, that there are a number of new programs that this program stood up. And one of those programs I like to highlight is the Clean Water Leaders Program. And that is actually a program to supply a combination of hard and soft skills for our upcoming leaders, emerging leaders, either if they're new supervisors within the organization or really, really excellent individual contributors who are ready to step up to a supervisor and leader kind of role to really be well prepared and to be ready for the next step of their career. In addition to that, our HR department, in partnership with the Cultural Equity and Learning, also provided a number of supervisor trainings, which really goes over the hard skills of being a supervisor, how to find the policies to apply, what are the most important things to look at when you're managing a team of individuals. So those are efforts that we're actually providing to our employees to be ready to step up to the next responsible role and to kind of essentially build an organic succession plan and succession structure within the organization. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. So just as a point of clarification, these include not only the topical subjects like climate action or water management or the engineering and the EATS stuff, but also soft skills. That's why I call them as some of the informal training. Things like, hey, I'm going on a 3-week vacation. Are you capable of covering for me? Are you at that? I'm assuming you have such plans and such programs. That was what my question was about.
Yes, this program definitely covers the soft skills, for example, resolving conflicts, facilitating effective meetings, building better cultural awarenesses. So those are all part of the offering of these programs. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir. So that's the Strategy Development and Enterprise Performance Program. The next program I want to mention is the Risk Management. This is another program that is a little bit under the radar. You don't really hear from risk management a lot, which is a good thing. If we constantly hear from risk management, that means that we have a lot of incidents happening. So far, we're still relatively calm in the risk management area. It's worth mentioning that the risk management team works behind the scenes not only to procure insurance product for the organization to cover us from a financial perspective, they actually do a lot of work as I mentioned, in partnership with the safety program, in partnership with all the department leadership and program leadership, to build more of a safety culture, to build more of a loss prevention culture across the organization. And that really helped us to, one, save money on insurance products, and two, keep our employees safe as well as our properties safe. The one example I would mention is our workers' comp experience modification rating, which is a rating that determines the premium that we pay. Basically, you can think of it as an actuarial evaluation of how safe our organization is. And the rating works in a way that your average organization's rating is going to be a 1. So anybody that has a rating that's below 1 is relatively safer compared to the average, and anybody that has a rating that's above 1 is relatively less safe compared to
Is that
the
per
average.
industry, or is that per the entire state?
That's basically a rating in our structure. It's decided by SAFE, who is basically the biggest workers' comp insurance, and that is within their population of companies that they work with. So I would say that in a loose sense, it covers a wide variety of organizations within the state. And 2 weeks ago, I was about ready to come in and brag about our rating, which is 0.87, quite a bit safer than a 1-point rating. But within the last 2 weeks, I actually received our new rating for the New Year's renewal, and that rating has went down to 0.67, a whole 0.2-point reduction, which means that we're that much safer as an organization. And I do have to dedicate that to the leadership of Lori Olson and Casey Adair, who have been leading our safety effort, as well as the whole risk management team, who have been leading our safety effort, loss prevention effort within the organization.
Jack, can I, Mr. Chair, sorry, could I ask a question?
Yes, no, please.
I raised my, sorry about that. Thank you, Chair. Jack, I had a question about the general liability processed and closed 858 claims. Could you speak more to that?
Yeah, so the general liability is, I believe within the claims, the general liability, it covers a wide variety of things. It basically covers any claim that's upon us. If anybody get hurt in our facilities, anybody that feel that they were either physically or financially hurt by the organization, they can raise a claim to us. Not all of those claims result in an actual payout. So it always goes through an insurance process, and our carrier is SDAO, which is a special district Association of Oregon. Yes, thank you. And they offer a pooled insurance coverage, and that's our general liability coverage with that. So the claim goes through, we manage that internally to create our record, and then we send it to SDAO. So they go through their insurance adjustment process, and then if there's a payout, they'll pay out to the claimant, and if there isn't, they'll close the claim. So our internal process handled 58 claims in the last year.
Chair, could I ask a follow-up question on that? Would you say all 58 of them were externally generated, or is it safe to say it's all internal?
I'd have to look back to our record. As far as the general liability claims, I would say the majority of those are related with the external claimant, although there could be situations where we have internal employees that may raise a general liability claim.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So since we have received a lot of public attention on our insurance program, we decided to include some more information about our insurance program. This chart really illustrates of how we are covered from a different lines of coverage perspective. Going from left to right, our workers' compensation coverage, as I mentioned, is entirely covered by SAFE. Now, there was a previous error that we just recently noticed on this particular graphic, which is why you received an updated page for this particular slide. Previously, we had a $5 million retention on workers' compensation, and that wasn't accurate. The entirety of the workers' compensation is covered by our coverage with SAFE. And then moving on to the property insurance, there are 2 columns in there. The left side column is related with our general property coverage, where the Clean Water Insurance Company covered the first $5 million of retention, and then the third-party company called FM Global covers from $5 million up to $850 million in property damages. The right-hand side column is specific for earthquake, where the clean water insurance company covers the first $5 million as well as a 2% earthquake deductible per location. And then the third-party company kicks in and then covers the remainder of the remainder of $100 million in that earthquake. And then clean water insurance company kicks in to cover another $20 million that's above that $100 million earthquake coverage. Moving on to general liability, auto liability, and drone liability. Those three are covered at the first $50,000 by clean water insurance company, and then the remainder up to $10 million is covered by special district insurance services, SDIS. And then on the drone liability, because it's a relatively new area and based on our consultant's recommendation, we added another overage coverage of $1 million over $10 million. That's also covered by clean water insurance company. Move to the right, our paid leave Oregon is entirely sponsored by our clean water insurance company as well, along with the third-party administrator. That is a program where the state has a program where there's an employer portion of the premium that you get to pay in, and then an employee portion of a premium that you get to pay in. It works similar to a payroll tax kind of scenario. And Clean Water Services have decided to stand up an alternative plan so we can actually return those premiums within the organization with the hope to use those premiums to benefit the program itself. Last but not least, the very right-hand side column is the cybersecurity coverage. And we are fully insured at the retention level within Clean Water Insurance Company. And then we also have a $3 million coverage from a third-party insurance company beyond that. Questions?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, after you. Okay.
Jack, what would be the typical claim on a drone liability insurance?
You know, since we have implemented the insurance, we really haven't had a claim yet on the drone, which kudos to our drone operators who have stayed very safe in their operations. So I can't, off the top of my head, I can't really tell you what would be a typical claim. I would imagine that it's similar to an auto liability kind of claim, that if our drone crash into something and damage anything.
Damage from our drones
Correct.
towards some other property.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ramesh?
Yeah, this is not dollar related, but a general question. For cybersecurity, what's the level of training to the employees on cybersecurity risks, and is there some kind of a measure on the compliance to that, like don't click on phishing emails, and what do you have to protect yourself from cybersecurity, even though you have insurance to cover that?
Yes, as similar to many other organizations, we do have mandatory cybersecurity training throughout the year, and we require every district employees to participate in those trainings. And also in the last few years, we have added a position, which is a cybersecurity analyst position, and now reclassed to a cybersecurity manager position, to specifically focus on the internal training and our resiliency building in terms of cybersecurity. It is definitely a huge area of risk that we're looking at, and it's one that we'll continue to learn as an organization and continue to strengthen the organization's stance on that. Thank you, sir. Okay. All right. The next slide is related with dollar amount, and this is basically an example of our fiscal year 23-24 premiums versus payouts, which actually kind of demonstrates Chair Song's question earlier, is if you look at the drone liability line, we really have only paid premiums in the past and didn't have a claim to have a payout. So on the left-hand side of the chart, there are many columns on here. On the left-hand side of the chart is the group of our quick coverages that's offered by Clean Water Insurance Company. On the right-hand side bars, those are our third-party insurers. And the dark blue bar is the premium that we have paid in each one of those coverages for fiscal year 23-24. And then the light blue bar is what we have basically made claims and then had payouts on those areas. As you can see, that the most, like a lot of those high dollar amount, high premium, but low frequency coverages like property, earthquake, those we don't really have payouts in FY 23-24. And we analyzed back 10 years of data, and the trend looks the same, which is a good thing, actually. We actually, those are the things that we want to have insurance for, but we really don't want the incidents to happen. And then there are some relatively lower dollar amount, but high frequency kind of coverages like our dental, where the blue bar is, where our paid leave Oregon, there is, and then some very minimal property claims that's in there, as well as workers' comp. So those are the coverages that we work with our insurance consultant to figure out a good balance of what are the risks that we feel comfortable as an organization to take on ourselves and build that into our self-insurance program where we're using the clean water insurance company to basically find the best balance of saving those premiums as well as not taking on too much risk in a way that is catastrophic for the organization. So that's basically the layout. The story we're trying to tell is that for the majority of our insurance coverage that we're paying premiums on, we're really not getting, quote unquote, the ROI or the payout from it. And by implementing a strategy to shift a portion of that risk within our appetite and then shift the responsibility of that premium into Clean Water Insurance Company, where we get to save those premiums within the overall umbrella of Clean Water Services, that is actually a money-saving strategy for Clean Water Services. And that concludes my presentation. So any questions?
Okay. Can I?
Ramesh?
So the last point you talked about as the risks and understanding the risks and so on. This was one of the questions I'd sent before the budget meeting. And the answer to that was really not very reaffirming. Currently, there is really no well-documented or a formal risk analysis based on what you guys, whether it's logistical or personal or risk at all. Even though most of them may not have a direct dollar impact, that kind of a risk assessment, risk management, both either mitigation or is still going to be a big hole in the way we operate such a large organization. Where are we on that, and how are we going to proceed on that?
Well, thank you, sir. I think the key word in there is formal and documented. So we actually have some ongoing initiatives to analyze our risks, and we actually also had some recent turnovers in our risk manager's role. Lori Olson, who is still relatively new to the organization, has taken on a previously started enterprise risk management initiative to really analyze our risk profile within the organization. So I don't want to mislead you of thinking that we're not doing anything to kind of assess our risk across the organization. We actually have ongoing initiatives to do that. It just hasn't really finalized into a formal document yet.
So the follow-up is when, how, and where will such a formal and rigorous approach to risk identification, risk management going to happen?
Well, thank you, sir. I don't currently have an answer for a specific date on that. I know that it's an ongoing initiative that we have. And as I mentioned earlier, this organization actually does need some good project management improvements in our areas where we can actually have deliverables and a number of things planned out. So that is something that we would we continue to engage with our leadership team and continue to move forward as part of our initiative. Right now, I don't have a formal project management plan for that initiative yet.
What target date would you aim for, though? I mean, you're the leader in this area, right? Mm-hmm. What would be, I mean, have you given the team an aspirational goal?
Well, yes. So even in the last risk manager that was here, who is Chris Navani, that's before Lori Olson, we have conducted a first round of enterprise risk management survey, and that is basically the first step of surveying all of our program leaders and department leaders about what do you worry about within the organization. And then we have since packaged that up and then kind of shared that at our SAGE level and then with the leadership level. Unfortunately, a lot of things happened at the time, so the project kind of stalled a little bit, which is why the target date is unclear at the moment. But it's definitely something that we continue to navigate, and it's something that we can bring it back to the priority list, and then put a more formal project management plan to it.
And if I could just jump in, point of clarification, are you referring to question? Are you referring to question 50 in the Q&A document? I just want to make sure we capture it correctly.
Yeah, along the same lines. That's where I was headed with that question. Whether it is developing a budget or whether it's developing a project or whether it's even executing a project, assessment of risks and not making them into issues is a big thing. And I found that whole a little concerning. That's why I keep coming back to that topic. Like you said, if there was already risk managers and there was already some discussion about, yeah, we know these risks are here, these risks are there, and what are we doing about it? It shouldn't take heavy lifting to formalize that and track that on a regular and formal basis. I've done that in my career. That's why I know the pitfalls and the benefits of doing that well. That's why I'm bringing that comment here to this meeting.
I might be able to help too. I really appreciate that. So on question 50, it was more about risks related to revenue shortfall and expense and how that rolls into the financial.
Those are examples, yes.
Stability, yeah.
In fact, I put that rider saying, these are examples, not multiple choice for that.
Yeah, yeah. So that piece, the team has the understanding of the financial risk reserves, the operating debt, and rate stabilization and capital funds. What Jack was referring to in risk management was the actual risks that could potentially impact the utility from an operational. So the team has done their initial risk assessment. They've put it on a scale, and they've been implementing strategies to deal with the lowest hanging fruit. So that could be a really good conversation for the board moving into the future. I mean, I remember talking to Pam Treese about the risk management presentations that were made at Singapore International Water Week, and is Clean Water Services yet doing this level? And that's a level higher than where we currently are, but it's certainly an area of focus of maturity for this organization. So I really appreciate the question. Then there's also risk management from a project management standpoint. With the engineering team does a really good job, whether it's a occupied building, analyzing the risk related to the infrastructure that's there and what needs to be replaced versus what can continue in place with good preventative management and maintenance. They also do that on the engineering projects themselves. What is the relative risk that they're trying to manage? But you're absolutely right. There's risk in all of these categories, and your encouragement for Clean Water Services to mature more fully into that space is a really good perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. That's what I got as an answer to this question, that we identify that's a good thing to do, we will do something about it. That's the encouraging part of the response. Thanks.
From Jason, Director Snyder's input, it would be good to put it on a schedule as a formalized initiative for the new CEO to work forward on. Thank you. So Pam?
Catherine, your name.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if this fits later in the agenda or not, but since this is the first functional area that we've dived into for today, I wanted to step back first and say, thank you very much for the updated Q&A. Very thorough. I learned a lot. Just thank you. I have no subsequent questions on that. I also want to say thank you for the buildings report. Very, very informative and useful. And in this presentation, I really appreciate your bringing forward the safety aspect. I know that the CEO and I have talked about some safety issues and concerns over the last fiscal year or more. And I don't know to what degree my board members, my fellow board of director colleagues have been introduced to that information, but I think this is a very good overview of all of that. What I'm trying to get to, Kathy, Well, I don't know that the question goes to you. Excuse me. I'm feeling very slow today. Might be because it's Friday and Friday afternoon. So at our station today, you brought hard copies of the resources. Thank you. That always helps me. The Clean Water Services Organizational Growth, 2015 to 2026. Thank you. But the business operations is the first functional area presentation that I've just gone through while I think having this. I didn't miss, this is new for us today, right? Okay, thank you. Here's the part where I'm feeling super slow. I'm not following the legend. And for some reason, I thought Kathy produced it, but sorry about that, Kathy. All things budget usually come from the CFO, whether you like it or not. I need some help. Can you
Absolutely, Chair.
bring the slow body along with the legend?
So we will.
Will we come back to it?
We will come back to that. That will relate to slide 35. There was a question, I believe, from Director Snyder around the organization's FTE growth over the last decade. So we have a standard slide, and it took us a little bit longer because it's pretty complicated.
Okay, so we'll get to it later in the
Yes.
agenda. But I have a specific question on business ops and strategy then, because I'm doing the Catherine Tilt thing on the word administration. And on page 3, under business operations, it talks about administrative program manager, and the slide earlier talked about bringing all the administrative staff together. And it may just be I'm having a vocabulary moment. Because when I look under the chief of staff and it says district administration. So administration is used in both places, but I think the contexts are entirely different. And I guess, thinking out loud, note that for a follow-up question, because I'm back there on the railroad tracks, and I need a little help.
Yeah, that's a great question, Chair. So the administrative program manager is Stephanie?
Yeah, I got that
Morrison,
part.
yeah, and all the administrative staffs under there, but you're right. Then there's district-wide administration, and what does that mean? Thank
Yep,
you.
I'm going to need
Appreciate that.
some catch-me-up follow-up. Thank you. And later on, when we go through another part of business ops, I'll have to ask another question that may bring us back to this presentation. We'll see.
Any further questions? Okay, Jack, next.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Budget Committee. My name is John Shaw, and I'm the Digital Solutions Director. I've been with the district for 2 years now. As the district's IT department, Digital Solutions does a lot of work behind the scenes. I won't be able to highlight everything that we do in the short time that we have together, but I will be highlighting some upcoming changes and initiatives that we have going on over the next fiscal year. Digital Solutions is made up of 4 programs: IT business applications and IT infrastructure, which are pre-existing programs that are in place today, and IT client services and geographic information systems, which are new programs in the coming fiscal year. IT client services will be created by an internal reorganization of Digital Solutions staff. So we plan to hire an IT client services manager to lead this team and move our service desk IT technicians and our internal business systems analysts into this program. The creation of this group will establish a more equitable manager to employee ratio across Digital Solutions programs and enhance quality of service by adding expertise and focused strategic vision to a team that is understaffed given the current size of our organization. Our current employee to service desk ratio is over 160 to 1, and Gartner, Robert Half, other staffing agencies, and industry leaders recommend a ratio that is closer to 70 to 1. And so the change is a much needed step in the right direction for right-sizing our capacity and our capabilities.
Did you say 70 or 170?
70. Thank you. Yep. So I mentioned this also to highlight that not everyone in digital solutions does all the same thing, and it's not all interchangeable IT staff. We have many different skills and roles, and while our team is growing, we are still lean in some skill areas where we only have 1 or 2 employees who may be able to do certain areas of work. Our other new program being created is GIS, which is being established through reorganization of existing positions and reclassifications of some vacancies. The goal is to build a centralized GIS group that meets the broad GIS needs of the district. The recruiting process is underway for a new GIS manager to lead that team. They will be responsible for strategic planning, standards and governance, project delivery, technical administration, and daily support of GIS systems and services. Work is underway by the GIS staff and a strategy team to finalize a transition plan and complete a list of responsibilities that will be the driving responsibilities of that centralized GIS group. Getting into some of our digital solutions budget drivers, the addition of the GIS program is the primary reason for digital solutions personnel budget increasing by 22% in the coming fiscal year. The GIS program will be staffed by 5 FTE that are transferred in from NSES and RUSD, as well as 1 FTE that is already inside of digital solutions. We have 1 additional transfer into the department, 1 new FTE, which is the IT client services manager that was added, and 2 positions that are transferring out of our department, which is the cybersecurity manager and the cybersecurity analyst. The result is a net increase in 4 FTE through transfers and 5 FTE total with that addition of the IT client services manager. Our materials and services budget has increased 22% as well, which is just under $1 million. Software licenses account for over half of those increases, and I'll talk about more of the details around those increases here in a moment. It is important to note that all software costs for the district are centralized in the digital solutions budget. So any department across the district that has software costs, that comes out of this department's budget. Department travel and training is listed up there, as well as our proposed food budget. The travel and training budget is $25,000, and that accounts for training for a specific training or conference for roughly a quarter of our staff that are in digital solutions. And the proposed food budget aligns with the allocation that was done per employee across the district for a team building event or retreat or something of that sort. On this slide, you can see a summary table of the proposed budget changes for the coming fiscal year, along with the FTE changes. And you can find additional information beginning on budget page 177. And this is just the summary of what I've already discussed. So as I mentioned before, there's a proposed increase of $523,000 in the software budget. Really, that gets broken down into 3 main drivers for that increase. It's the annual increases in the license costs, just license costs going up due to inflation or other reasons. Increases in the number of licensed users or servers. So as our employee base grows or we have additional users that need to be added to systems, that adds to our cost, as well as growing number of systems, or if we need to right size some of our licensing for servers, things like that, that will drive those costs as well. And then new software that's being implemented and added to our district portfolio. So our largest increases are due to our upcoming Microsoft Enterprise Agreement renewal, firewalls, backups, adjustments to our ERP licensing, cybersecurity tools, and our GIS system. We're also adding some new software, as I mentioned, notably legal case management and contract management systems. And so those are all net new costs that are being added to the budget. We also have in materials and services an increase in professional services and contracted services. These funds not only fill temporarily fill some vacancies due to long-term leave, but they will also drive some of our key projects and initiatives, including GIS data and system migrations and some of the implementations of our new systems. You may have noticed that I did mention cybersecurity tools, even though cybersecurity is not a program that is under the Digital Solutions umbrella any longer. There are a number of hardware and software tools in the Digital Solutions budget that are part of our cybersecurity arsenal, and we are continuing to grow our capabilities in response to emerging threats. Digital Solutions works closely with the cybersecurity manager really on a daily basis, and I'm really proud of the relationship that we have and the work that we've done over the past few years to get our cybersecurity program where it is today. I do also commend all of the CWS employees as well for their vigilance in making sure that we help keep the district secure and safe, participating in their annual training and making sure that they are reporting the phishing emails that come in. And each employee is a potential vector for a threat and a breach, and really appreciate the work that each employee is doing there. Talking a little bit about our planned investments and initiatives, we have several upgrades that are planned. We have cybersecurity enhancements, as I've mentioned, the new system implementations, and a GIS upgrade coming. We are also undertaking the creation of a data warehouse, which will provide a way to join together data from several systems across the district and make it easier to join that data, clean it, use it, report on it, and make it available to those who need it. It's also a really important step in creating that data warehouse so that we have something that we can really build a foundation on for future potential applications like machine learning, AI capabilities in those areas. Additionally, we're planning for some process improvements in several areas, and that's tied to both the centralized GIS program, creating that new IT client services program. We've also established an IT steering committee, which launched in January of this year. That committee is made up of department leaders and representatives in an advisory role to myself as the Digital Solutions Director. Topics range from project updates, prioritization, not only prioritization of the existing projects, but speaking into what is our prioritization, the matrix that we use or the metrics that we use to prioritize projects, policy discussions, and other planning. And then I know today we're talking about the upcoming fiscal year 2026, but soon planning for 2027 will be upon us as well. We'll be implementing a planning process this year with each department to review their current software usage and look at their plans for the coming year so that we can preempt the roadmap process, the capital planning process, and the operating budgeting process to make sure that we are retiring the software that we can retire, that we have a plan for knowing where there might be some increases or new systems desired, and we can prioritize this effectively and give a ready answer on whether it will be feasible to do in the coming year. Thank you for your time today. That's what I have. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Ramesh?
Yeah, maybe it's my ignorance or my lack of effort to go through the fine print. Help me understand, where do all the hardware costs gets captured? Because I'm sure large organizations, there's everything from this TV to the laptops. Where does that get captured, and what's the budget for that?
Yeah, a lot of those are captured in our capital projects. They're umbrella projects, so they're annual replacement and renewals. Some of it is net new, so if we have a new server or something like that that physically needs to be added, but we do on a 4 to 5 year cycle, depending on what the equipment is.
Imaging involved and so on.
Yeah, so like PCs, for example, we're on roughly a 4-year replacement cycle for all laptops. And we try to each year replace about a quarter of what we have so that we don't have large spikes in our capital costs for those devices, but that we can have a steady cost on that umbrella project year over year.
My shortcoming, thank you. Lisa?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a question for you, John. I just want to celebrate you and commend you. What I've experienced with you and your team, you've gained a new clients, 5 new clients. The Board of Commissioners, we recently got some computers and iPhones for Clean Water Services, and you've been a tremendous help to me in embracing this new technology and getting situated. So I just want to celebrate you and commend you for your, your leadership and your understanding and helping us, and more importantly, being accessible and being available even when at 7 a.m. having computer challenges. You picked up the phone. You and Ann, I want to celebrate you both. Thank you. And I think I'm all set now, hopefully.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Oh, Jason, sorry.
No worries. On your slide, your sort of next summary slide, I think that's got the data on it. Maybe I'm wrong about where we
Next
are.
slide. The other way, the other way.
The one that has the
There you
blue, there we go. So I look at these in a couple different ways when I'm seeing metrics, and, one of them is, does it make sense, or what does it mean? And when I look at the average number of tickets per month at 925, when you have 400 and some staff, that tells me that on average, each user is submitting more than 2 tickets a month, which seems like a lot. That seems like, I don't know what the industry standard is, but having been a user in various organizations for 30 years and doing desktop support at one point in my life, that just seems like a lot, and I'm curious to know what's driving that.
Yeah, so that could be any number of requests that come in, and some of those are automated as well. So some of those metrics were pulled, especially when we had cybersecurity underneath the digital solutions umbrella, that those were maybe automated tickets that were coming in for.
So like if someone
Yes.
reports a phishing email, that generates a
Yes, it would
ticket,
generate a
as an
ticket.
example?
Yeah, and so there could be a lot of alerts or workflows that create tickets that are not necessarily a user.
User-driven? Okay.
Driving that.
I mean, you see where I'm going?
Yes,
I mean, it
yeah.
seems like a large number for the number of users.
Yeah, agreed. And it is,
Okay.
that's an average number. When, it's anywhere from 600 to 1,200 that we'll see in a month, depending on what time of year it is or what might be going on. But yeah, some of that is either automated through various alerting systems that we have to go resolve. And so that does inflate that number a bit. Password resets are in there as well, yes. Yeah.
Catherine?
I have a different variation on that theme. And sorry, I'm struggling to ask coherent questions today. One of the things that I feel blessed to have had the opportunity to understand about clean water services is there is a lot of, if you think about, I can think about 2 sides of the organization. There's all the waste management, natural systems, surface water management side of the house. And then there's the other business side of the house that has a lot of things that you have to have this entire workforce. You support all of that out of digital solutions. That includes all these examples. But the part that I didn't have a full appreciation for until Diane and team have invested in exposing board members to it is the highly technical nature of the work. For example, the labs, all of the different kinds of equipment in all of the different wastewater recovery treatment facilities. There's a lot of instrumentation there with a lot of different software packages, pieces of equipment, and analysis. The support for those different software packages and whatnot comes right out of digital solutions, right?
Yes, so some of those are not, some of them are supported by us, and some are third-party vendors, depending on what the company is or what the specific.
Yep, but when a new piece of equipment comes in, and it can do X, Y, Z, but then there's a piece of software that helps take information from other pieces of equipment, and that new spectrum analyzer, there's some stuff we've been introduced that's changed over the last few years. That analysis software often changes, and your team has to make sure that if I'm a user, I can do that work, get the highly technical individual special equipment support I need from that contracted company, but you're part of that mix, right? That ecosystem. Thank you. It's more complex than a white-collar worker like me is naturally exposed to, which is why I wanted to make sure I understood. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just quickly, I'd like to build upon that, and I really hadn't thought about it either, but I'm thinking about the cameras in the pipes that we utilize. I'm thinking about the instrumentation that we've seen in the lab that the chair mentioned. So those are all pieces that go together underneath digital solutions. So I just wanted to expand upon that a second and say, wow, I didn't think about that scope as well. So thank you.
And whether it is digital solutions directly supporting that, or if it's just that we need to have the internet connections available or the access points or the computers that can support those things, those all
The behind the curtain things.
Yep.
Any further questions? Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Holly?
Good afternoon. My name's Holly Dober. I'm the Human Resources and Risk Management Director. You'll find information for the Human Resources Department in your budget book, pages 193 to 195, and then also in the roadmap booklet from pages 81 through 84. The Human Resources Department includes 10 staff members. Our focus is to be strategic partners and collaborators to attract, develop, and retain a high-performing, inclusive, and diverse workforce, and to foster a healthy, safe, and productive work environment. Topic areas include employee and labor relations, talent management, employee performance management, employment laws, policies, and compliance, benefits and wellness, classification and compensation, pay equity, analytics, dashboarding, and metrics. And then we support the employee learning and engagement program and also the risk and safety programs at the district. The budget drivers include personnel costs increasing 11%. This includes 3 staff members who were redesignated mid-year, which resulted in promotions to new positions to align with the work needed to be performed and for the department and for their professional growth. Those positions include 2 human resource business partners and 1 senior human resources information systems analyst. The materials and services decreased by 18%. That was largely due to the HR legal service costs transferring over to the legal and compliance services program. And then we ended the health and benefit brokerage services contract, and that was due to moving our non-represented benefits over to PEB. The HR proposed travel and training budget is $12,500, and that includes continuing education and professional development training for the human resources staff, mostly related to employment law, labor, and compliance. And then the proposed meals and refreshments is $550, and that's for our annual team retreat. So the budget-driven achievements, I'm really proud of the human resources team. We have a couple of them here today with me. It takes all of our HR team to achieve our projects and work items while supporting and being a resource to employees. We completed the transition of the non-represented employee health benefit insurance to the Public Employee Benefits Board, which is PEB, which I mentioned in the previous slide. That included medical, dental, vision, life insurance, and voluntary benefits. And the outcome of the transition reduces out-of-pocket costs, provides broader access to healthcare services, increases the provider network, controls annual benefit premium increases, and reduces costs for clean water services in the long term. There is a legislative cap of 3.4% for the annual growth limit on the PEB benefits. Mr. Snyder asked at the last budget committee meeting about the performance management process. So we're really proud. One of our initiatives was to complete and create individual employee competencies working with the supervisors. So all the employees are now integrated into a new annual performance management system. The system has the capabilities to allow employees to complete their own self-evaluations, and then it's followed back up with their supervisor's feedback and review of the management hierarchy. Then also the past 6 months, we've achieved a 90% staffing level goal. We continue to work with hiring managers to fill vacancies. As of yesterday, May 22nd, there were 48 vacancies. Of those 48, we are actively working on 22 that are currently in some aspect of the hiring process. In addition to those 22, we're working on 9 temporary positions, and the temporary positions are primarily seasonal or internship opportunities for the summer. And this slide shows the human resources budget, as I mentioned, for fiscal year 26, and 11% increase in personnel services and 18% decrease in materials and services with an overall cost increase of 3%. And then in order to support a resilient and engaged employee experience for the fiscal year 26, the Human Resources Department has many projects and work items we're going to be focusing on. This list aligns with our roadmap, but I wanted to highlight a few. We're going to focus on retaining employee talent and providing professional development and well-being, focusing on filling vacancies, ensuring roles are understood and position descriptions are clear. We'll be preparing and going into labor negotiations in the winter, spring of 2026. And then we're going to continue to provide customer service and constant support to employees to help them be a resource, help them navigate their careers, and enjoy their employee experience at Clean Water Services. Lastly, I just want to thank all the employees that work at Clean Water Services. They show up every day to provide services to the community. I want them to know they're appreciated and valued. Any questions?
Catherine?
I have some questions, but I feel like I use the term HR, but it's not necessarily just your aspect of HR. It's under workforce management and possibly administration. I don't know. The 5 of us, board members, have learned a lot about organizational management from our journey with Clean Water Services, particularly over the last year plus. We have a 3-year class and comp program going on, created over 1,200 new job descriptions where there were none before. A lot of HR transformation going on. And there are parts of the workforce management that you're involved with, and your slides make it. I really loved your previous slide, but also you talk about, in an earlier slide, supporting employee learning and engagement program risk and safety. So thank you for that cross-functional team. So my question goes to, it's not specifically the HR department, and a bit towards process that maybe we'll get to later in the agenda. You've helped me understand as a board member that greater than 50% of the CWS workforce has been with CWS less than 5 years. That's huge from an employee recruitment, onboarding, and retention. In one of, you referred to it as succession planning on your FTE slide, where you have talent management, recruitment, selection, retention. I kind of feel like the word retirement should be there as well, right? Or succession. It's not just succession, but it's helping people retire successfully is an art. And I know you do that, but I didn't see it. So, but I know you do that. But what I'm really trying to get at is you've also done a really good job since we've been on board in 2019 and PERS reform in May of 2019 really helped us understand, and we've seen it in the Q&A, we have visibility into future retirements, and especially in the management ranks too. So my question goes to, I'm having a little bit of trouble with the org setup where the things that I associate with HR, that HR umbrella, are under HR and Risk Management Director, Culture, Equity and Learning Manager, and Risk. So I'm having my brain's having a little trouble, but really where it comes down to is budget-wise, process-wise later, I'm going to need to come back to this topic because my sense of information over this last fiscal year is, for my big HR umbrella, we may be a little too lean. And I want to make sure as we talk about finances, and what I'm prepared for is that during supplemental budgets, we may have to beef up by a couple of positions within this fiscal year. And mechanically, as the organization goes through those learnings, I'm looking for the confidence that we don't have to know enough today through budget approval to allow for that potential knowledge, but that there will be sufficient resources, whether it's through contingency or reserve, so that we could effectuate a plan for those needs in a supplemental budget. Hopefully I've asked my question in a coherent enough fashion.
Yeah.
Thank you for your grace.
Yes, and in the budget, the approved budget before you, we do have contingency in there, and we have some non-departmental that allows for mid-year adjustments related to needed positions, so evaluation of the need for the position, and we would bring it to the board for approval.
Thank you, Chair. Holly, great to see you. I do want to understand a bit more about Clean Water Services succession planning. With this whole media attention to Clean Water Services, we've learned a lot about the turnover and staff who left Clean Water Services and the significance of how they departed. So I want to, you don't have to answer, this isn't a budget approval process, but I would like to understand Clean Water Services plan for succession planning as we go into. And as you know, the board is going to take an active role in terms of how we are involved and how we pay attention to Clean Water Services. And so in that part, I would like to voluntarily offer my role to get involved and to see what we can do to help. And along those lines, I think a few budgets ago, we did talk about doing span of control process, and I think it's time that we align those two initiatives and really take an active role and do those. And then my other question is also, in your role, and you mentioned employee training and some of the professional development that's available to the employees. I'm wondering if you can take a moment right now and speak to what are included in those training. Is there conflict resolution? If a staff have complaints, where do they go? What's included in that? I know you spoke in the aggregate, but could you disaggregate that and sort of say, these are what are the opportunities that exist in your purview to employees?
So 2 parts, I'll answer 2 sections in your question. One, for succession planning, starting from the ground up, we have already started working through job descriptions and creating career ladders, career matrices, and just even working in with the represented positions and working closely with the union to develop those career ladders to provide opportunity. We also have an opportunity where someone can fill in for another person while they're out of the office. And if they've been trained, there's on-the-job training, but if they're fully competent in their role, they can step in and we do offer a premium for that to allow them to grow into that position potentially later in the future. So we've started a little bit on the ground working through those clear career ladders. And then to answer your other question, where do employees go? There's a couple different options. We obviously have, if they want to have a confidential conversation, we have our employee assistance program. So employees can directly go to the employee assistance program, and it could be confidential. It provides counseling and advice, guidance, and resources. You may have heard of EAP as the acronym. The other place is we do have a in-depth policy that talks about where to report. And all employees can go anywhere to report. They can report to a colleague. They can report to a supervisor. If they're not comfortable reporting directly to their supervisor, they can come to any of the chief of staffs, any of the managers. Depending on what they come to that person with, it'll be up to that person for a duty to report. So as a public employer, an employee, you have a duty to report depending on what was shared with you. Those can come directly into HR. We also use outside counsel to do investigations when we need that extra third-party barrier to provide additional guidance. So employees can go where they feel comfortable. We have a view. They can come, my door is open, they can come to me. I get a lot of employees coming to me and talking to me directly, asking for advice and resources. So we've also provided that ability within the 10 HR team members. They can go to any of those to talk to them at any time.
And one other item, I'm going to jump in and just offer the board has lifted up, and Director Treese has lifted up and emphasized looking into an employee ethics hotline. And I will just share that we are deep down the road of actually launching that. So hope to be able to have a more formal announcement about that very soon. But to offer another anonymous path for employees to be able to report so that we have many, many doors available.
Catherine?
I realized I'd covered up my second question. And once again, I'm not quite sure where to go with it, if it's HR or business, the whole business umbrella, the whole functional area that Jack went over. But going back to the board's resolution and order, by way of example, the 12th and 13th, be it resolved, I have a question about where, because on your slide 27, you talk about policy review and updates. There you go. Changes in workplace practices and procedures and training. So training is here, and training is part of HR, but it's also mainly done by culture, equity, and learning. So I get a little confused. So really what I'm trying to understand is it's a complex world, right? So there are Oregon requirements, and then there's CWS personnel policy. What part of the organization does that happen? Is it in multiple areas and I'm just cluing into that, or what?
Yeah, it's in multiple areas. So the Human Resources Department, there is training embedded in it, and we focus directly on supervisor training.
Okay.
Management training. And then also the Culture Equity Learning Group, their focus area is doing that leadership cohort. They also do the onboarding cohort. So they're training more district-wide inclusion, belonging, those types of functions.
Okay.
And HR partners with legal for policy and procedures, evaluation, updates, and then training on those compliance items.
Thank you for explaining that to me.
You're welcome.
That's understanding the whole umbrella and.
And there's safety training, and that's done in the other program too. So I don't want to miss. We got cybersecurity training. So it's really subject matter expertise, and that's where it's focused and driven down into the organization for those training procedures.
Well, once again, Holly Dober helps me understand every time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Elaine?
Thank you, Terry. I have actually a question, not directly to any of the staff who are out here right now. It's more of a when to ask my question. I have a broad question about reorganizing and the costs and potential staff fatigue from that. Will that be something I should ask under the budget committee member questions, or?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I will just do a gentle time check. We're a little bit over, but we have an ability to squish and make up time, but there is space for that exact question. Yeah.
Any further questions? Okay. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Now's the time we invite members of the public to provide comment. Stephanie, do we have anyone who wishes to testify?
Thank you, Chair Song. Clerk Moss tells me that 3 individuals signed up ahead of time to give comment in person today. We will invite them forward and then invite anyone in the room who wishes to give comment to come forward. Additionally, Clerk Moss will support comments from those connecting on Zoom today. I will beg your pardon in advance if I mispronounce your name, but when I call it, please come forward. State your name when you reach the microphone. Joni Meisner?
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Joni Meisner, a 39-year resident of Hillsborough and a customer of Clean Water Services. I'd like to start with public information requests that have been made to Clean Water Services for trips and expenditures by management that still have not been met. As a governing body with oversight authority, you can and you must direct the release of information to the public, as well as mandate and ensure compliance by expediting releases of documents in the public interest, especially those involving public funds or ethical malpractice, which you have full authority to do and have not. Instead, you want to rubber stamp the third 4% increase in customer rates in 3 years to an entity that has demonstrated failed and corrupt leadership, fiscal mismanagement, and clear and ethical violations. Why hasn't this board done their due diligence in getting and making public these documents? Is there something you don't want us to know? It's time for this board to fully step up. You're each serving at the privilege of Washington County residents who elected you based on your promise to serve each of us in good faith. This is especially critical when those under your oversight choose to take advantage of those they are supposed to serve. I'm urging the Commission to deny any proposed rate increase at this time. Do not reward dysfunction, dishonesty, and corrupt behavior with money from the hardworking residents of this county. This is not to suggest that Clean Water Services doesn't do important work, but I am completely confident they are capable of operating under their current budget, given the opportunity to find internal savings, starting with misappropriated and misused funds within their current budget, salary increases, and bonuses. Public servants like educators, police officers, and firefighters, to name a few, have been asked to do more with less for decades, and I'm certain they would be happy to offer advice if asked. It would be disingenuous to profess your integrity and commitment to accountability, to further tout yourselves as the watchdog for the people of Washington County and as stewards of our resources by approving this year's rate increase. Clean Water Services answers to this board, and this board answers to us. We need you to do your job. Thank you.
Chair, if I might, Ms.
Yes, Kathleen.
Meisner? Yes. I would like to respond to Ms. Meisner and I'm happy to do it after you've taken all public comment, but I don't want her to leave today without her hearing about an update, at least on one topic that she's raised.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine. Joni, would you like to talk to Catherine later?
Sure, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay. Stephanie, next.
Thank you, Chair Song. Craig Johnson? I'll give a moment for Craig Johnson to come forward for comment. Okay. I do not see Mr. Johnson in the room with us today. Clay Actor?
Good afternoon. I thank you for this opportunity to be able to offer some comments today. I am Clay Actor. I'm a resident of Hillsborough and a customer of Clean Water Services. I just want to add to what was previously said in regards to the issues of transparency and accountability of Clean Water Services and this board. Information requests have also been made to this board for full disclosure regarding any benefits each of you might have received from Clean Water Services. With the exception of the two most recently elected commissioners, these requests have not been or inadequately responded to. I want to trust the people I voted for to look out for my interest and for the interest of those in this county. But this does exactly the opposite and makes me question the motivations and the integrity of those sitting before me today. Clean Water Services investment in the Forest Grove Lab and other investment in their insurance company stinks of excessive misuse of tax or ratepayer funds. Which is for the benefit of the executives rather than the public. Also, I'm curious as to why there is no timeline on when the audit of Clean Water Services is to be completed, other than, and I quote, as soon as reasonably practical. This definitely erodes my confidence in this board to provide the oversight you were elected for and promised to do, and to take seriously this kind of fiscal corruption. Are you hoping the public just forgets about it? Or is it just irresponsible leadership of you knowing and not wanting to do anything about it? I'm opposed to any rate increase for Clean Water Services at this time. They need to prove to the residents of Washington County that they are responsible enough to effectively and ethically use ratepayer funds, and this board needs to prove that you are committed to and assuring that that can happen. Approving a rate increase under these circumstances would be unconscionable. And I just want to say to, I believe you are one of the new board members, am I correct?
I'm in my second term, sir.
Oh, your second term. I just want to applaud you for what you said earlier. And what I heard earlier was that you mentioned that you wanted to get into the nuts and bolts of how Clean Water Services is run. That's the way I took it. That's the way I listened to that. And I applaud you for wanting to do that, because this is something that's needed to happen for some time. And I thank you for coming out and saying that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone present in the auditorium who wishes to provide comment to the CWS Budget Committee for up to 2 minutes per person on the presentation you've heard thus far? Please raise your hand or come forward. Thank you. Please come forward. State your name when you reach the microphone.
Thank you. Is this on? Thank you. My name is Dirk Knutson. I'm here today as a person that pays for 11 Clean Water Services accounts, both commercial and residential, members of my family and beyond. And I'm also here for 8 people who have identified themselves as current employees of Clean Water Services they don't feel they can be heard without reprisal. I'm here to speak about Ripple. My grandson Wyatt always asks me, why, Papa, why? And I'm thinking about Ripple and I'm asking why. I did some research, deep research, that whole budget. I'll read to you what I found. In 2025-26 proposed budget allocation allocates $31 million to the Ripple project. This Ripple allocation is 9.8% of the total 26 budget, and it accounts for the majority of the budget increase you are faced with. In fact, the overall 26 budget will rise by $52.6 million. 31 million of that, 58.9% of the increase that the ratepayers are faced with is Ripple. So just looking at Ripple, I looked at the website. Ripple, quote, contributes to overall resiliency of CWS, quote, regulatory compliance, but outside labs and the labs we have that comply with ORLAP rules can be used at a fraction of the cost of building that monstrosity. So you need to look at the numbers. I haven't heard Ripple mentioned today, but if those numbers are true, we're in big trouble. To conclude, we're in the middle of a crisis with this agency. There's no doubt about that. I ask you to suspend all spending that you're going to approve for Ripple until you look at it for what it is. I ask you to complete an audit and look at the consultants and contractors that have been hired, because I've been told there was not proper vetting, either with an equity lens or with fair hiring practices. These are what the employees are telling me. And if I give you that information and you choose to approve the budget without an audit, you own it. Please stay with the essential services we need and do that audit. And I really do appreciate how hard this job is. That budget speaks to that level of work and the scrutiny that needs to happen. I just don't think Ripple's what we need right now. We could take a time out and we could still survive. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the auditorium who wishes to give comment? Seeing no hands or movement, over to Clerk Moss for our participants on Zoom.
Thank you, Stephanie. We had two people who sent in requests. The first is Michelle Standridge. Michelle, can you hear us? Can you unmute Michelle?
Can you hear me?
You can. Please go ahead for up to 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I appreciate the time that everyone has taken to come and listen to the proposals and that staff have put together. I've tried to educate myself on this budget and the insurance company through the documents that have been available, and it's still difficult for me to understand with any clear transparency where the costs are that have been alleged to have been misused or been overspent. So I would like to associate myself with the previous comments that have been made by members testifying today from the public and from the press. I would also oppose any rate increases until the independent audit has been completed and identified any funds that could have been misused. I would oppose any salary increases until that audit has been completed for any of the commissioners that sit on this board, anyone who would be taking over the position of the chair that is resigning, or the, I don't even know what we're calling her at this point. I know there's been some changes in titles. There's no clear breakout in the budget that I can see if there's been a severance package that was approved for this individual. I would also like to have that be public information before anything is put forward. And I would hope that that is not going to be put into a supplementary budget process later in the year if it's not accounted for in this current budget by line item. I was not able to identify it. I'm not a budget expert, but I think that those items should be very clear to the public as to what the compensation package is and if the current and departing director is going to continue to be paid in any way through the insurance program. I see my time's up. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. The next hand chair song we had was Deanna Johnson. Ms. Johnson, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead for up to 2 minutes.
Excellent, excellent. Let me go to my paper here. Thank you so much. My name is Deanna Johnson. I've been a resident of Beaverton for the last 23 years. I'm a customer of CWS in Tualatin Valley. I just wanted to reiterate the emergency need for CWS to offer low-income energy assistance to their customers. As I heard from the last meeting, they're sitting on $340 million in reserves of our ratepayer money, when some of us are struggling just to pay the bi-monthly sewer-based charge, which seems to be double what City of Beaverton utility customers are paying. And also for water, it's like our base charge is 3 times the amount of what our City of Beaverton utility water and sewer customers are paying. I also don't want CWS to pull the same stunt of increasing, the 4% increase, which Tualatin Valley raised our rates 20% last November, and then within days gave us a 20% discount for low income. So basically, I'm still paying the same identical rate as I was last May. It also came to my attention that our neighboring county, Multnomah, they're offering their low energy assistance customers a minimum of a 30% discount. Tualatin gives 20%, CWS gives nothing, but the minimum is 30% and the maximum is 60%. So I just want to hopefully that the board will not let CWS, and for that matter, Tualatin Valley, just get away with raising it 20% and then a 20% discount, or in this case, 4% rate increase and then a 4% discount. Sadly, also all the charities that we get referred to by Tualatin Valley and 211, they run out of money as soon as they get it. There's just not enough. So if we are in fact sitting on $340 million of reserves, can we please allocate at least $1 million of that for CWS to help out their 179,000 households that are currently using their services? So I heed my time and thank you for listening.
All right. Is there any other member via Zoom that wish to provide public comment to the CWS Budget Committee for up to 2 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any additional hands, Chair Song, and special thanks to Stephanie for sitting in for me there. So thank you.
Catherine?
Thank you, Chair Song, and for recognizing me. And I'd like to empower Christine Meadows to give me the hook, if you would like. Okay? And any of you can flag her, raise your hand, and she'll give me the hook. No questions asked. Thank you, Chair Song, for giving me a few minutes. I would like to ensure that my comments are on the public record so that all of our community members who came and testified today have the benefit of it versus just in a one-on-one conversation. And Ms. Meadows will make sure that my information is accurate because I don't intend to deliver anything other than fact. To the concern with regard to Clean Water Services responding to public information requests that have not been sufficiently revealed. As a board member, I know that our staff is responding as quickly as they can to public records requests, and they are releasing information as soon as they have the benefit of finding that information. So they're not waiting to stockpile things and then deliver it in one nice package with a bow. They're providing that as quickly as they can. So, Ms. Meisner, I wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to hear that from me as a board member. There is some reference to the audit that the board asked for in our resolution 25-5 as adopted on April 8th. in the first be it resolved, and this is particularly on fiscal and performance audit of travel and meals, as opposed to a full financial audit, which is done through a different financial audit means. But all that information is publicly available, organized well, and put the financial audit information for the agency under the financial reports site on the CWS system. So if folks need help to find that, please send an email, and we have a great team. They'll make sure you have access to that. With regard to the Ripple building, I just want to make sure that I didn't check myself, which is why I'm asking. You sent it to us, the board, the budget committee. It's a great set of information, helped me a lot. But what I didn't check is to see if it was included in today's, or either the May 9th, was that our previous budget committee meeting? Was it included in that packet or today's packet, or it's just on the website? Because it's really useful information. So if you could follow up, or if you know the answer now, I think that would be grand.
Chair, I can speak to the fact that it is on our website under the budget. There's a link to all the documents that we've made available to you, including information on occupied buildings.
Thank you very much. I know that we travel the CWS website more frequently than members of our community, so I appreciate, one, the confidence yet again that you're open and transparent, but where to find it, making it as straightforward as you can. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair Song, for letting me contribute those hopefully factoids in the public record.
Thank you, Catherine. At this time, we'll take a 15-minute break, reconvene just after 3 o'clock.
Chair Song, may I suggest coming back right at 3 on the nose, just to thank you very much.
Yes.
3 o'clock on that clock.
Okay. 14 minutes. Okay, welcome back. The next agenda item is address budget committee's members' questions. Diane and Kathy.
Thank you, Chair Song. Thank you to the Budget Committee for the 70 great questions you gave us to work on before the budget meeting. And then we had another 10 that came back, part from public questions and the committee. Last time we put together the Q&A. You have a copy of that in front of you. There is also a copy of that Q&A with all the answers on our website to view. And just as a clarification, and as the chair had mentioned, our proposed budget is out on the website, and also all of our annual financial audits for the district. With that, then, I'm moving to open it up for discussion of the committee.
Elaine?
Thank you, Chair Song. My first question is one that I alluded to before the break. I'm interested in your sense of what the costs are with reorganizations. I have seen that as kind of a theme from budget to budget. It can make it a little difficult to track what's going on my end, but also I think about workplace disruption, whether there's employee fatigue or morale that suffers with a lot of reorganization, because I've been in organizations that have gone through a lot of reorgs. And I'd just like to know your sense of how you balance the desire to reorganize versus the potential costs.
That's a really great question, especially as it relates to change management, right? So what Clean Water Services does is it works with the teams themselves. So, for example, the change with communications and community engagement, Joe Gall had already been supervising and working with that team, so it's really cost-centering as the change. So that's one type of change. The other type of change is looking at the GIS program, where you had GIS folks in RUSD, you had GIS folks within or Development Services and GIS group within NSCS, and you had a GIS group within Digital Solutions. The question is, do you lump them or do you keep them split, right? So in that case, in order to manage the career pathing of the GIS staff and to have consistency in job descriptions, to have consistency in the base layers and all of the work that goes to managing of a GIS system, it's better to lump them together. That's actually a best practice. Then you have folks that are super users. So they are part of their team. So they're super users of that information. So the question becomes, when do you lump them versus when you to make that change? So the team goes through that change management. They wanted to keep the groups distributed, but it still doesn't make sense because you double on supervision, you double on managers. So it's really an efficiency move, and how do you work through the team's ability to do that change? So we involve them. So it's both cost centering to do cost allocation to match the organization, and also actual change management initiatives. So the other one that you see in this budget was there was an opportunity to relook at the Enterprise Asset Management System group. So that work was done in a previous year, and the teams were moving to their new teams, and so the budget is now following that change management change. Yeah.
Thank you. My next question is around the consistent requests for rate increases and to build reserves. And maybe this is more of a request for communication out from Clean Water Services, that I do not think that there is a clear message understood by customers that a lot of this reserve and steady rate, slow and steady rate growth is to be able to contend with the earthquake proofing whatever we're going to call that project up at Hag Lake, and to be able to do that without spiking rates like the water district did. So I think maybe it's more of a suggestion that perhaps there can be a way to communicate that more directly, more clearly, and just get the word out so people understand it better. I also want to express my sympathy to the person who was talking about additional assistance funds, because perhaps a small bit of that reserve might make a big difference for some customers. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really good insight. And Kathy and I often talk about this. Do you do slow and steady rate increases by having an adequate reserve so that your capital program doesn't cause a rate spike, right? So it's really creating that rate stabilization. And utilities have a circumstance where they go annually to the ratepayers to ask for this rate increase. There's other models, such as you do a longer-term sort of rate discussion. Another model is within general purpose government, they have a limitation, right? They came from ballot measure 50 of 3% plus whatever is the growth in assessed value. So they have a specific increase that's part of that policy. So it's sort of this, how do you maintain rates? Because as the customer testified previously, there's situations where their water bill went up, I was surprised, but 20%, I think she said. And that's what Clean Water Services is trying to avoid over the long run. So it's the entire capital program. Over the, not only, we look at the next 5, but the team's already planning the next 10, the next 20, and the next 40 years that you see through the planning effort. But is, how do you tell that story so that it makes sense? But the outcry of the impact of what's going on in the economy and with folks' ability to pay, I think the ratepayer assistance, there's a lot of support, I believe, from this board to look at that.
Chair, since this is budget discussion, before you move on to the next person with a question, could we have a little more budget committee member discussion?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll kick it off. Between the previous budget meeting and today's meeting, I not only read the multiple Q&A documents, which are stellar, by the way, and I think I should have tagged my page. Darn, wish I'd done it now. Because there are answers to some of the questions that speak to how capital applies to rate increases, but how operational costs contribute or are covered through rate increases. And not everything's covered by a rate increase, right? We have SDC revenues, so on and so forth. I want to come back to billing, that part of your question. Because on the CWS website, I pod through the different parts. There are different pages that talk about rates, in addition to our Q&A. I want to applaud the team for information that I found under what's on my bill and how there were sample bills. And from those sample bills, being the geek that I am, for the urban unincorporated area, CWS in that bi-monthly bill was only 33% of share. Water, drinking water, toilet water, all water, irrigation water was 67% of that bill. Sherwood, thank you again for having these examples. CWS, this is wastewater recovery, surface water management, base fees, the flex fee depending upon how much water you use. It's indicative of how much waste goes out the pipe into the CWS, 36%. City, 63%. And keep in mind, some cities add on other non-water related fees. King City, I believe, is the local and the regional service. It doesn't quite come through that clearly. So, and there's no water from what I saw, if I understood it right. Beaverton, there isn't a sample Beaverton yet. It's the city I live in, darn.
Chair, by next week, it will, mid-next week.
Oh,
I've been
cool.
messaging with Mr.
So
Gall.
I pulled out my own bill, which I know I'd sent on, and my household is a very low water usage household, which means my sewer rate's a little higher as a component, 46.5% versus 53.5%. The sample will be better, and I look forward to that. So through the information that's in the Q&A that's available on our website, I think we have a lot of information there that tells this story. Could we tell the story better? Absolutely. And I know through our board conversations with staff, they're working on it, and we're going to keep working on it. But I sit here today appreciating your questions. Thank you very much for bringing them forward, because I learned from them. But I know that each and every day, the staff from all of our departments are doing really good work, and they deserve to be compensated for their work. So as a board discussion, I just wanted to contribute that. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Jason?
Thank you, Chair. I want to get a couple big picture, I think, issues or discussions out on the table for purposes of the committee having a discussion on them. I had submitted or met with multiple leaders and shared concern or thoughts around a low income assistance program and the need for that. I think we should be directing that happen. I don't think, from my recollection, that is not, that was a discussion, but it was done after, or it was discussed after the budget was produced. So I think that's an adjustment and a policy decision that we should discuss here, but I think we need to move forward on that. I frankly think we're behind the times for how I like to see Clean Water Services as a leader. I think we're behind where we should be on that. I've had an opportunity to think about it. I think I also shared with leaders, both Kathy and Diane, when I met with them, that I'm struggling with the rate increase. Just when I look at the, and it's less about, I mean, I'm concerned about community perceptions, but I'm even more concerned about the savings posture and the, proverbial squirreling with the, millions of, nuts in their mouth kind of approach to what I feel like our savings and capital program have become. And I like that we have that much savings. It's very hard to defend that and say we need 4% rate increases. I also believe in the let's do it consistently. But we also have to balance that with the fact that 4% compounded rate increases, because it's not just like we come here and we talk about 4% this year, but it's not just about that. It's about 4% compounded over, many, many years. That is a struggle for people. And I just feel like in the environment that we're in now, the projects that we do have big projects. I mean, one was mentioned. That's not a $400 million project for our component of it, though. It's not even close. And so it is hard for me. The big policy discussion around rates is how much is enough, and if we're talking about bonding to do projects too, I have questions about why are we saving so much while we're, also going out and borrowing. Yes, I know we can do it. We can borrow at a low rate, but if that's the case, we should probably do that. But we don't need so many nuts squirreled away, so to speak. I think there's a balance here needs to be had. So those are two bigger policy issues that, from my perspective, I'd like to hear many others weigh in on.
Great. Pam?
Thank you, Chair. I have three, and mine in order are the low-income rate program. I've said it before. I feel strongly about this. I think that we are, as Jason mentioned, behind. This is something I've had experience with at the power company for years and years. I think it's absolutely something we need to do. Number two, I also have questions about our rates. I understand the stability piece. I understand all that. But what I would like to see is an analysis of what a rate holiday would cost, and also a sliding scale of what it would cost to go from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, whatever that might look like. And lastly, I would like to look at our reserves in order to establish a process and an investment in doing our own billing, which gets to the issue that the chair was talking about before. I think I believe it's important that we do our own billing. We're not influenced by others and their situations, and conversely, that's the case. So I recognize it's a convoluted process. I recognize that it will take a study. I know all those things, but I think we need to be able to analyze that and look at the benefits versus the negatives. So those are my three things.
Thank you, Pam. So I would just like to say, Jason, I echo what you said regarding the reserves and fund balance versus the rates as you did. So I was curious on the figure 7 on page 10 of the questions and answers.
Page 10.
So that reflects the differences between the rate increase for this year and how it plays out over time. And does this include any of the bonding discussion to pay for the capital projects?
Confirm, Aaron, but I believe it has the bonding in it in 26, yes.
How would it differ if we didn't do the bonding?
So if we do not do the bond issue based on the existing proposed budget, we would use 25 million in reserves.
So basically, the lines would just dip down, I guess, transitioning to a $25 million deficit. So I guess my question for Pam, does that
doesn't really
reflect,
answer.
does not answer your question?
I think I need to have more detail as well. Thank you. And I should say, I need more detail and I need more discussion. That's my voice.
Could you bring figure 7 to life for us, please?
Oh,
Page 10 of the Q&A.
The same one that I'm looking at, okay.
Because I'm not sure what it is you're asking for that isn't already captured. Is it just the 1-year rate holiday versus a multi-year rate holiday? Hang on, we need to wait for the document to get up on the screen. Because I really appreciate that team put this together.
Just so it's clear in what you're looking at there, those dotted lines, that's the impact on reserves over time, going down to roughly 250 million in 2033 with a $75 million issuance.
You know what would be helpful is if it went backwards and included the rate holiday we did in the COVID time period.
Okay.
Which is, I'd have to ask Kathy's indulgence. I know it's somewhere in this volume.
I know.
She gave it to us.
And Catherine, my question was because that would give me contrast.
I know, yeah.
And Kathleen? Okay, I'd just like to follow up on the chart. So it's a 0% in fiscal year 26. Is that a continuous 0%, or Or are we
No,
assuming
that
some
would-
increases in the future years?
No, that would be a one-year rate holiday. And then it goes forward with our current forecast at the 4%. Keep in mind, though, that we're in the middle of a cost of service study analysis. We're finalizing that this year. That will be the basis of a new rates set. And so we'll be bringing that to the board to evaluate the future rate trajectory. Yeah.
Thank you. Ramesh?
Okay, I hope there's a time limit on how much I can share.
Not yet.
Commissioner,
the hook.
Commissioner Trees is already looking at, is he going to speak? No, I'm not going to take the whole hour. Because, first of all, I'm the newest kid on the block, so I really don't know the weeds or the reeds in this document. And I'm really thankful that I got this opportunity to
The night.
understand a lot more about this organization and the different arms, nuts and bolts, and where they're friction and where they're smooth and all those things. So if I'm in the budget committee next year, I'll probably have a little more deeper dig into that. But as I started on the budget document, I had several things going on in my mind because I knew I was not going to do justice to the specific details of why is this 312 million versus et cetera and so on. Because just like a lot of us have felt, even though it's a 4% increase, I've kind of questioned where are we challenging this 4% increase? And for me, having proposed some budgets, some of them got tried, some of them got approved, and having approved a lot of budgets myself, it was a different environment, not a government, not a utility kind of an environment. I've always felt that this budgeting process is a three-legged stool. There's one side of the revenue, there's one side of the spends, and the third one is what, for this organization, we call as the service. Or sometimes it's also called as the quality. So which one do we balance, which one do we pull to make the stool stable so that we can sit on that? And when I asked that question in the initial one, I'm sure some of you spent time to respond to that. What really stood out to me was that this is more like we will develop the spends and then we'll go find the revenue, which is likely how we are ending up with this 4% increase. In $739 million, it's about $30 million of the increase that we are sending. In my experience, or even if you look at it through any kind of a window, a 4% savings on a $740 million budget shouldn't be that difficult to find. And that's where we look at some techniques like, I'm sure the CFO and her finance team are experts in that, in terms of trying to find out whether it is prioritization or most of us have heard of that example, right? A jar, small stones and big stones. You put the big stones first, then you can fit as many small stones as you can versus the other way. That kind of a prioritization process, was it implemented to get to what's really the critical need? We didn't come up with spend and then say, let's adjust the other two legs. Were we going through a cycle of all these three to see where we can get to that stability? And given that 4% is not a huge ask or a huge increase.
Compounded it is, though.
Compounded, exactly, year over year. In fact, whenever I used to do budget...
But water bills do that too. I don't understand why compounding is coming up because water rates...
Any utility.
Yeah, any utility has a rate.
There is a cascading of someone increases the rate, so someone increases the rate, and finally it hits us, right? But as a technique or as a way my mind works, usually one of the first questions that we ask whenever we come up with the budget is, if we were going to be shorted by 5%, what will I really have to leave and move on? Or if by some reason they say, oh, you're going to get a 5% more, where will you be? So that, I don't know, technically it's something called as a zero-based budgeting, ZBB, right? If we'd used that kind of a technique, could we have saved that 4%, or could we have come up with some kind of a prioritized or a targeted budget? I'm promising you next year, once I know the line items and see there, I might be able to identify some of them. So I'm hoping and I'm asking if we have that kind of an approach to this budget development. I call it as the budget by design. Once it's developed by design, it is waterproof. It's something that we can, with least discussion, with least questions, we can clearly say, hey, it was good because of the way it was built, it's okay to approve, rather than go back and see where we can pull the edges and so on. So with that said, I'm going to stop my rant at this time, but I hope I have conveyed a message saying that there is an approach to budgeting which can help the people who are going to approve the budget in terms of how easy do we make it for them to approve. So
I assert we make it very easy because we have a financial policy of having predictable rate increases. And as this slide says, our predictable rate level, we have adjusted. And we did take a one-year rate holiday, which caused quite an increase for subsequent years. It's now settled out, but there was a cost. We're still living with that carrying cost because every 5 years, our permit requires us to make improvements. And this is why it's not only is it a very lean organization, but they plan, and there's plans for plans like nobody's business, so that we have the right technology in place at the right time. And so I think the 4% is actually a quite conservative number, and there is a lot that is behind that 4%.
No, I agree. We went through the same process in the Westlaw Water Board just last week. So, but there at least there
Much
was
smaller.
I agree, but even the increase or the budget items, we went through that and saw where it can be stretched out, where it's necessary, and so on. I'm only looking to learn of that process and how we go through. Also, the other thing is also about, do we have like a rate stabilization fund and where we can use that to adjust these smaller increases or decreases?
Yeah. In the Q&A, it talks a little bit about that, is those reserves, that is our rate stabilization. It allows us going forward to do like these 3 or 4 years of significant projects and not have to issue significant amount of debt and not raise rates.
And has it been used in the past, the rate stabilization?
That we have had years where we've used reserves, in particular when we did our site account for PERS. We dipped into our reserves to fund our liability and reduce our future employer rates.
Well, and 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, because of capital needs, Kathy looked at, as our CFO, she and her team looked at going out for a bond. And the market, it wasn't a good time in the market then. And so it was financed through cash reserves, which there's pros and cons to everything. But we had to keep the construction plan on track. And now it's a slightly different situation, though I got to say with the presidential administration turning capital markets on top of their head, I won't be at all surprised if she reports back to the board that the situation has changed significantly. in the bond market. So,
That's mainly for unexpected or unplanned expenses from what I hear, right?
Yeah, so it's giving us the flexibility to incur, keep capital construction going that's needed to meet our regulatory requirements and not have to do a rate spike.
but I want to, reserves are there for multiple reasons. It's not just for 1 year. And I especially want to applaud Kathy. Last meeting, you really brought to life how our utility reserve scheme is different than a government operations reserve scheme. We have to have much, like essentially a year's worth of operational cost. So I feel very well served. Thank you.
Certainly, I appreciate the effort and the interest and the focus in bringing it out. It's not an easy task. But my role here is to be the voice of reason. So, like somebody commented during the break, I think my role is to ask the tough questions so that it gives you a way to, I don't know, even if it's a 0.5% better next time, that's the reason why I try to go into these corners. Thank you.
Jason?
No, you're next.
Okay. I'll just be real fast. In relation to this rate discussion, I think one of the points you made is a very important one, which I didn't explicitly say, but was part of my what I had stated earlier, and that is, or it's implied in it, and that is that if, I think that rate increase, the 4% rate increase translates to about $7 million a year, correct, in round numbers? If we can effectuate a overall reduction in cost in the form of efficiencies, et cetera, of $7 million out of this very large budget, that achieves the same result as with a 0% rate increase. I guess that's what I want to make sure everybody understands is a trade-off. Like you can, as you were describing the stool, you're exactly right. You know, to get it balanced, you can raise revenue or you can drive cost out of the system or inefficiency out of the system. You can do a combination of both or one or the other. But I think this idea that the only way to achieve the results we need is just, it's got to be a specific rate increase every year that is, a certain amount. I want stable rates too. And I also realize they can't be zero. So I get all of that, but there should be as much focus on the cost and efficiency side as there is on the revenue and rate side.
Yeah.
Well said. I would not have been able to say that well. Thank you.
So I mentioned the three things, the low-income rate program, analysis of the rates and looking at rate holiday or rate reduction, and the billing. When I ask myself why is that important? What comes to my mind is the parallel path that we're walking around restoring public trust. So I can't divorce those two in my mind as we go forward here. And that makes it a little difficult to look at this rate reduction piece. Makes it a little easier to look at an internal review that would result in a 4% reduction. But I still stay on point with the low-income program and the clean water service billing issue. So my point here is, when I look at this and we talk about this current budget, I am very myopic, and I understand that I'm not looking out 10 years as I should be. I'm trying to balance that, but I'm also looking currently at the situation we're in. And I don't think we can ignore that in relationship to where we want to get. And I think it's particularly important that we invest in the public trust, because as we progress through these years, we're going to ask for more. And we're going to need more, because that's the nature of the work that we're engaged in, the nature of growth and the nature of where we are. So for me, I'm really looking at that investment in public trust, and how do we quantify that? Not sure. And I think that that's a tough question to answer. But I would still put forward that we need to be very thoughtful in this budget process about the messaging around what we are doing and how does it relate to public trust. So as far as how those things come together, in terms of what, in my mind, what are my 3 top issues, I'm pretty flexible about that.
Catherine?
I do have one last question, but I've been debating with myself through both budget committee meetings if it's worth asking. But I think I want to get an appreciation for it. This is my 7th budget with Clean Water Services, and I am very thankful for the amount of time that Diane has spent with me as a board member over these years, so that as a newbie, as a new board member, I've had the opportunity to learn the extent of work that is Clean Water Services. And under her management and her leadership, she has improved business practices significantly, where we didn't have processes written down, updated, but through workforce changes, the list goes on. The question I have for you, could you give me a flavor, not an absolute number, but just a flavor, for when you worked with the full departments in the ELT, what was their overall cumulative ask for new FTE to continue doing the work? Because I know from what you have told me that you have scrubbed it, you've made them scrub it, you've double scrubbed it, and we have been given a proposed budget that you and Kathy worked on very closely that continues to have the leanest of lean recommendation. Could you give me a flavor?
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Catherine. You know, the teams identify what it is that they need to accomplish their work and their roadmap. And I'm going to actually turn to Aaron, because Aaron had those numbers before. Aaron came to me with big wide eyes about the capital budget and the operating budget, and we worked really hard with each of the departments, so I appreciate that question. So Aaron, you don't know this, but Aaron does an amazing work with her team. So behind Kathy, she's got a great team. So Aaron, I want to give you voice and lift your voice up here.
Thank you. We had 34 FTE requests initially, which is down from prior years.
And the number that this proposed budget asks us to approve today is?
4.
Yeah, less than one hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
From 34 to 4. Thank you.
I want to make one note. We were looking at, just before this, slides from our presentation on the 9th. This one in particular has been updated after the budget discussion slide. There are 4 updated slides. This one includes Clackamas West. So I just wanted to note, we did find one entity with lower comparable rates, and so in the spirit of transparency, we wanted to put that forward. So this is an update that's in your current slide packet.
But their urban area is much smaller than ours. What's their service area, service population? Do you have any feel for that?
It's a good question.
I know it's it's less than their overall population because Clackamas West does not serve all the cities outside of the metro area. Doesn't serve Sandy, Malala, Canby. So it's only like 350,000 people, which then you have to divide into households. So it's like half of our household number.
Yeah, it looks like approximately, according to Google, 200,000.
So a third.
Yeah.
And their treatment technology is secondary, so they're comparable to all others other than McMinnville.
Clackamas River's bigger than the Tualatin.
I wanted to ask Erin one more question. When the team submitted their operating budgets, what was the roll-up? It was probably a 7. It was pretty high.
It was, give me just a couple minutes.
Yeah, she'll, yeah, so.
And I bet Diane was thinking, no way.
Well, I kind of fell out of my chair.
The board won't let her do.
Fell out of my chair.
Board
We all
won't
did,
let
right?
me do that. She'll say, Chair Harrington, no way.
No. So I did want to make one more comment. When you come from a lean organization and you're trying to build the capacity that's needed, especially for this long-term succession planning, you're building from a bottom spot, right? When you're coming from an organization where you have more than you need in your downsizing, then you can find a whole lot of efficiencies. So for the Clean Water Services team, it's really foregoing things that they wanted to do within their roadmap. That's what's going on now. And trying to, that's the purpose of the roadmap, so we can sequence over the long run as to what we need to accomplish, the team will accomplish together. So for the next CEO, I think they have a good basis, and they'll be able to take Clean Water Services to the next steps that it needs to get to. So, thank you. I know Erin, her eyes were literally that big when we did the initial roll-up. Yeah.
Quick request. Sorry, Chair. I apologize. I finally clued into the fact that the updated presentation packet includes this slide. Could you just very quickly, because I need you to bring them to life for me, could you just step through each of the new slides that's in this presentation packet? Thank you.
Sure. So the first one we have here is the one we were just looking at where we added West. So for comparability purposes, once again, this is the combined SANI and SWIM rate for each of the jurisdictions. And it gives down below there the rate increase they're planning in 26 for each of those jurisdictions. And as it was mentioned, I think it's notable to say that Clean Water Services is second lowest and gives the highest level of treatment.
But it's not, can you go back? The population number you mentioned. Oh, yeah. Even though we're the second lowest, technically Clackamas West, because of what you Googled, Elizabeth, it's not comparable. It's not, or.
They are giving the same types of service in the region. And that's what and that's how we showed them as a comparable in our region, in the metro area.
I think what you're picking up on, Commissioner Fye, is that of this whole set, we have a higher level of requirements, like tertiary treatment, whereas West can do secondary treatment. Those are the points you're trying to raise. That yes, still doing this kind of, they're still in the realm, but it's not absolutely the same. Yeah.
So how many of those would be comparables?
Probably McMinnville.
Okay. Even though they don't do swim.
Correct. So that's just their sewer rate. Yeah.
So we're comparing sewer rate to sewer rate there.
Yes.
In response to your question, Diane, on February 25th, our roll-up was an increase of 8.17 million, which is an 8.4% increase in our operating. We are currently looking at a 5.7% increase, which is 7.5 million.
3% down.
Pretty high.
So this was an ask at the last Budget Committee meeting, and this is an overlay of, in our forecast of the CIP budget for the next 5 years, and it's the SANI and SWIM programs in there. And you see that big, the significant increase it actually happened in 25, in the current year we're in, but it's also going into 26 and 27, and it really relates to the lab building. We have some permit requirements at Forest Grove that we are constructing, and some of the pump stations. When you look further out, we're still staying above 100 million out years, but there you're going to be seeing some conveyance projects that are going on that are, and some treatment, but the conveyance are coming from that West Basin master plan.
What happens when the capital improvement drops in 27, 28? It will be like
Well, I will say that I don't consider that a significant drop, because actually trajectory in the past has been maybe at a 50 to 70 million, and these upticks we're seeing in here, that now our standard is over 100 million. That's a big increase in our annual capital project needs for the district. And this is where you balance in the forecast, do you issue debt to fund some of those projects?
One thing I've realized is that both in the water board and also here, this is not like what you spend on directly gets you the returns. It's someone else who pays for that, or it's a distributed payment system. So new expenditure obviously translates to a rate increase or charges or billing increase. But the mind still says, how can you keep that to the minimum? It's not. We increase it because we can, is what I'm trying to get at.
No, we increase it because the forecast and our capital project needs show that we need to do the increase. And it is a factor of operating and capital and keeping us a strong utility to go forward in the bond market.
I'll follow up with you offline because.
Okay.
And I also want the Budget Committee to know, there was this dotted box that said asset renewal management plan that the team is still working on. So Clean Water Services has benefited from the fact that we're just a little over middle age. So we're a little over 50 years. I think we're 53rd year. So the team is actually defining what that need is going forward, because those assets are now reaching sort of their fruitful life. So the team is really working on that. So this capital program is based on East Basin Master Plan, West Basin Master Plan, and they'll be coming back with the asset management plan. Yeah.
Jerry?
Yeah. Well, if I could stay with that, what's the total of that, and does that match what you put in the book? I didn't find a total of all these projects through 2030, and so is that what that is?
Yeah, so that's a combination of the SANI and SWIM forecasted budget.
But that
CIP
agrees
plan.
with
And
the
it's
capital improvement plan.
Yeah, and it should be in your budget document back in the appendix.
It also is consistent with the capital.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I was looking for a summary total. So did I miss it back here?
In the back,
What page are you on?
334, very last tab, but not the very last pages.
Yeah, I was looking at that, but I didn't see a total. Anyway, oh, there it is. There's the total right there. It is $617 million. Is that true?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Anyway,
There's SWIM.
bottom line is, when we have forecasted for the next 5 years that kind of capital expenditure needs,
It's right here.
a $435 million surplus seems to be not sufficient. And I know that everybody looks at $435 million and we're awash with cash, but they're not paying attention to this. And as you said, Diane, if we're in midlife, but we know that our facilities are not in midlife, they're in their senior years, then that's what we have to be planning for. So the 435 doesn't concern me, other than, is it enough? because if it isn't enough, then we bond and we use debt, which is a nice blend. And if the debt market would go back down to 2 or 3%, we'd probably welcome that. But right now, it's not. And we also have to face the fact that there is some consideration, some conversation that tax-exempt bonds are going to go away. And if tax-exempt bonds go away, then the market's going to change considerably. So with all of those knowns and unknowns, we have to be prudent about rate increases and spending our operating revenues. So the other thing is you provided us with this Clean Water Services organizational growth from 2015 to 2026. I'm with Catherine on this. I can't follow your legends, and so and it doesn't. In some regards, I also put together this, what you gave us, kind of a graph of all the departments, and I put budget numbers and I put head count on it, and some of that isn't jiving with this. So could you walk us through this document, because you put a lot of time in on it?
Really want to acknowledge the work that Jody Newcomer has done with Erin and the team. I think Jody told me she's dreaming boxes the last couple of nights, but really, thank you. So what they wanted to show you was the positions when they were added from 2015 till today. So a box that has a dark blue line is a position that exists today, but it's considered a new position because it didn't exist in 2015. Okay, so that's
2015 then.
Yeah. So the benchmark.
Start with just the very top
Yeah. So
of the legend.
yeah, sure. So an existing position that has just a light line, that position existed in 2015. So if it was an existing position that existed in 2015 but it's currently vacant, that has the blue shade. So if it was a position that did not exist in 2015, it has the dark blue box. And if that position is currently vacant, Jody showed it as it has a blue shade. So it's a position that's new since 2015 and it's currently vacant.
And Diane, can I ask or make a clarifying point? If we look in those boxes with the bold blue line, the FY there is the FY when the position was added.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And if I may, this was in response to a question around how much the organization has grown. I believe Director Snyder asked this question. So it goes with this slide that talks about the overall head count. And then it took us a little bit longer, as you can imagine, to try and track down where all these positions were added.
And the proposed is
very
this
last
year?
one? Yeah.
And the proposed has the tan shade, for this year.
Those are the 4 positions.
Yeah, it's the tan shade, yeah.
Are we all following that?
Sorry, it was,
Thank you.
Jody did an
Very well
amazing
done.
job to tell the story, right? Yeah.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
So, you want me to walk through it, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, that would be great.
Oh, okay. So on page 1, it shows the purpose for each of the programs underneath the executives, what they're doing. Okay. From chief of staff to chief financial officer, chief business operations officer, the general counsel and chief compliance officer, the chief utility relations officer, and the chief engineer and water technology officer. Then
When you were hired in 2018, you were our first ever CEO. Used to just be a general manager.
Yeah, and the board at that time were...
But there were similar positions, question mark?
They had a lot of directors.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they just had a lot of directors, yeah. So, yeah, okay. So at that time, this lofty title was because they wanted to differentiate the era that they were going into. So they like sort of the new era of the utility. So a lot of utilities were moving to either have chief executive officers or executive directors, and there's still some general managers, and if it's within a department of a bigger structure, they can be department directors. But the board at the time when they hired me, they wanted a distinction. So, and that's what they did at the time. Okay, so when you look at the next page, what the team did is to break down, so who is within the chief executive officer's office. So there wasn't always an executive assistant, and we have a management analyst in FY24 to help with the work that needs to get done with our more reporting and strategic planning and those types of things in those documents. A chief of staff has always sort of existed at Clean Water Services, but a government relations manager was added in fiscal year 20. The emergency manager was added last year, fiscal year 25, and a grants analyst was also brought on the team. And it's really seeing that there's a need for even all of our cities, especially the smaller cities, to be able to have grants to help them do the asset renewal that they're going to need in the long run. And the team got one grant for the city of Forest Grove to help them with the I&I, but it takes a very deliberate process to do that. So our hope that they'll come back with more grant opportunities, and we're really excited about that.
Can I just ask a process question? Commissioner Will, you had asked them to go page by page. Everyone's now oriented to what this is explaining, and I think understand it. This review is going to take probably 30 minutes if we stay on this track.
Yes.
Do we really need that level? I just want to double check. Do we
No, I
need
just
that
wanted to make
level
sure
of
I was
review?
understanding it.
Okay.
So I went back and recapped what. Reasoning, the explanation of the growth between 15 and 26, I've heard, and so no, I'm good. I certainly do not want to delve into how many ever.
10 pages.
Yeah, the next 10 pages of.
At that level of detail.
Thank you, thank you. My voice,
Commissioner Snyder saved the day.
my voice probably wouldn't last that long, by the way, but so I hope this is good information. So the organization has been developed from extremely lean to build the capacity that's needed for today.
I actually think this is really an important exercise, given a lot of the questions in the big picture and us being able to understand it. But I don't think we need to. I think it should be available to the public too.
I had a quick question about the chief of staff. Sorry, Chair.
Nafisa, go ahead, and then we'll go to Elaine. I'll just mention process check. It's 2 minutes till 4. We were previously planning to adjourn at 4. Kathleen, what's the next thing in the process once we finish the discussion?
My understanding is if everybody's still available. My understanding is everybody still available on the committee after 4? Because
We are.
Can we get this done by 4:15? And can every board member stay till 4:15?
Yeah, we just have the summary sheet and then the motion. So we're at the very end.
Okay, thank you. Nafisa?
For the sake of time, my question is not. So we can move on to committee member items.
Elaine?
Okay, so I think I have a process question as well. It seems to me that there is an interest in taking another really close look at the proposed rate increase, at the amount of the reserves, and balancing all of this. Are we looking for, is this something that, would we ask Clean Water Services staff to come back with a proposal? Does this board want to propose something? I want to understand where we can get to today and whether there's homework or next steps for another day. What are we doing today and what are we not?
So,
Catherine?
as I've been counseled by our legal team, our role as the budget committee is with regard to budget approval. And then there's the step of budget adoption. But there is another step in between. The budget adoption is done by the board of directors. And there are Oregon rules with regard to we can't change the approved budget more than 10% compared to the adopted budget. But 10% of a big number is a big number, okay? Additionally, the actual rate setting is in the purview of the board of directors. And is there a work session?
There's a work session on June 3rd.
So we had tagged that previously. The board of directors had tagged that. We're being fully open and transparent with regard to our questions on that. It's our discussion there is better informed as a result of all of the examination by the budget committee members, as well as all this documentation. I don't know if there's more to add from either finance or legal on this, because I'm not the expert.
What I'll say is that the job of this committee today is to approve a budget. You can make motions if you'd like something changed in the budget before it goes to approval and goes through then a motion and a second and discussion. But the job of this group is to approve a budget today. It does go to a public hearing June 17th, where public once again can make comment, and the board in the preview can also make adjustments to the budget at that point.
Sorry if I can. So even if we approve the budget as it was documented and presented, there is still the board that can make changes. They can increase, decrease before they actually approve it. Is that right?
They would adopt, yes. When they go to adopt the
They
budget,
adopt.
they can
They can make
recommend
those
changes to the budget document, yes. Up to 10%.
But it also, we also, I believe, from our prior budget committee meeting, within this budget proposal is a proposal to bond, as Kathy has gone into detail. We talked in the prior budget meeting, thanks to her explanation, about instead of bonding, effectuating reserves. That action does not change the, no, I'll ask it as a question. If we choose to effectuate reserves for that bonding, how does that change these numbers in the black, which are the actual motionable numbers?
So on the resource side, you would eliminate 75 million, and on the requirement side, you would reduce fund balance to balance, because the end result is a budget that needs to balance resources and requirements.
Sorry, you said 75 million, that's right. I was thinking MSTIP 150 million. That's why I have had a crisis of confidence that it was going to fit in 10%. So
Can we clarify the process, though? Because I heard a process question. Was the question what the next step is in terms of a motion to adopt?
that's on the next slide.
Yeah, but we're not.
I was trying to clarify. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify what it sounded like a process question, so I just wanted to make sure we clarified.
So I guess what I thought I'd been hearing here is that you want to consider a 0 rate increase, a 2% rate increase, or a 4% rate increase. Those are the kind of the three options that I've heard. I don't know how we communicate that to staff and pass a budget. I also heard Pam saying she wants a low-income fund.
Me too.
And so I don't know, is there a particular dollar number you want it, or you just want to toss that out to them for some feasibility on what that would look like?
I think obviously it's going to take us longer than
Yeah.
a year.
That's what I'm saying.
To put it in place. So I would propose that we have money allocated for the study and to look at the implementation process. Do you have advice for me on how much that would be, and do I need to make a budget proposal or a motion to take that out of someplace here?
Or can it happen in a supplement?
I was just going to ask that very question. And I believe I've made it clear, and I think we have enough board interest in doing this, that we can address this in a policy context with a supplemental budget.
Excuse me, there's adequate contingency, so when you make that change, it's just, it's paying for it out of contingency, so.
Okay, all right. So Jerry, I'm okay, but my request is that the board, and I think I'm hearing Jason agree, that we move that forward in policy discussion.
Well, and I'm seeing heads shaking
Yeah.
from multiple community members as well, and that's important
And I'm
to me.
taking that in.
So do we have to have some sort of a motion to do that, or
No.
we're just saying the budget committee's giving you direction to come back at a later date with that information? Okay?
Definitely, just give instruction.
Yeah.
Decision.
Yeah.
You can say you don't.
Secondly, then, is how do we deal with the fees stuff? I'm trying to accelerate. Remember, you got 7 minutes here, boys and girls, so.
The rate?
The rate.
The rates are a separate discussion for the board.
It's happening in a work session. I think Chair Harrington covered that.
But is the budget committee willing to approve a $929 million budget, knowing that there is going to be potentially modifications or not, and it's all on our case, and they no longer have a vote?
We're going to find out real soon with a vote,
Okay?
I think.
I would like to request, as someone who is not part of the board, that careful consideration be given to financial assistance, to adjusting that rate increase request, and those are the real things that are staying in my mind. So I just like to ask that the board carry that forward on behalf of the rest of the budget committee members.
And I thought I heard too, Jason, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I thought I heard that there should be some consideration that if we did a 2% rate increase, that we'd like to see a 2% reduction in expenditures. So
I think that's I think that's also a discussion we probably need to have in the commission discussion. Driving efficiency in the organization. I hear some perspective that things are very lean. I want to give that consideration. I do think that yes, Commissioner Willie, to your point, if we do a 2% rate increase and that's where we land, my hope would be that we drive 2% cost out of the system so that we're not putting ourselves on a bad trajectory.
And effectively, that would be net sum zero.
Yes.
All right?
Can we approve the budget with conditional language? Like what Director Jason was suggesting, that we approve that conditional, that there will be some effort made to decrease or find savings to the extent of 2%? Effort made, I'm not saying go find it.
I mean, the job here is to approve a budget, and I don't know. I guess the question of whether it can be added as a condition is not mine to answer, but it would be very unusual.
It's complicated, but it sounds like you are suggesting that it would be a condition based on a factor that is outside the scope of the budget committee.
Right, because it's going to be in the board of directors who will discuss that in the work session and make the adjustment.
And Ramesh, if I can jump in, if I'm understanding correctly, our role is to help move this forward. I believe the board has heard loud and clear from
Very.
public input and from the community members. And then I think in addition, we can show up on the 17th if we want and reinforce our comments if we think they need to be done. At some point, I think we have to step back and trust.
I understand. I'm struggling to verbalize what, you know what I mean? Trust and
Okay, time for a summary and motion. Kathy, any summary for us before we address the motion?
No, you have a proposed budget before you with $929,134,300 in appropriation. There's a motion there before you. And
Do we have a motion?
I'll move. I'll be the brave one. Oh, I see. Okay. I move to approve the proposed fiscal year 2025-26 budget in the amount of $929, $134, and $300 as presented in the FY 2025-26 proposed budget document and recommended for adoption by the Board of Directors.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'm afraid that after we take a vote, we're all going to disband. So I would like to personally thank each of you for your time, your energy, your analysis, and your consideration, your thoughtful discussion today to help us ensure that there are many eyes on the proposed budget. You asked terrific questions you submitted and that the staff responded to in the Q&A, but also through all the presentations. I want to thank staff for all the thoughtful work and Diane for your leadership as well in composing this proposed budget, and for all the staff members who participated in all of that work leading up to it, but also in your great delivery of the information and your patience, especially with me on a Friday, in trying to struggle to ask thoughtful questions. So job well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine.
Ditto.
And I'll just say that it's been a great opportunity for me the second time to sit on this committee and remind everyone that everyone at this table is a ratepayer, and we take it very seriously.
I want to rebut before we vote on that. I also want to thank for the opportunity to be new, to learn, and to be a little bit of a PIA for some of you guys. I'm sorry if I've been that. I'm sorry. My apologies in a heartfelt way. Thank you.
I thought your questions was really great. So I really appreciate your presence here and the energy and the thoughtfulness that you brought and the expertise that you brought. So you exuded that. I hope you know you came across subject matter expert as well. And I just want to take a moment. I think we're crunching on to just meet our deadline of 4:15 to adjourn. I do want to express my gratitude to Clean Water Services. This was a challenging year for you all, and you delivered. It came across how you spoke about your programs and the storytelling you did about the great work the staff are doing. I hope you know that I heard you, and I appreciated you. And you're hanging in there, and your leadership is showing up and how we come through this challenging time. So the board is with you, and the community is with you. As you can tell, we have 5 community members that brought a lot of energy and effort and and excitement to this budget process and ask really tough questions. So we didn't rubber stamp your budget. We really asked a lot of questions. You saw the 80 questions. I want to take a time and say thank you for answering all those 80 questions. When I saw it, I said, oh boy, and if you say, you got your work cut out. But they were really good questions. I appreciate my colleagues and
We need
the community
time for the
members
vote,
to ask those questions, and it was really exciting. So thank you. This was a good year, but we prevailed, and perseverance always wins out. So thank you.
Can we take the vote now, please?
Yeah, motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay.
But before we adjourn.
Okay.
But you
Oh,
close it.
okay. The motion passes unanimously.
Chair Song, I'm hoping that as a group, we can take a moment to collectively thank and applaud Diane for her work. I think this is my last meeting with her, and I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you.
I thought we wanted rainy ones.
No, it's a great team, and the transition of leadership is going to go smoothly, and it's a heartfelt thank you to be in service.
Thank you. Okay. Meeting is adjourned. Good to see you. Good to see you. See you in June sometime.